how to edit crosstalk in a video podcast. I've seen you use the range tool. Unfortunately, the range tool does not work for me like it does for you. And I will explain why. I have tried to use it in the sequence section and the timeline. I have better luck with the blade tool. My plan was to move crosstalk away from each other in hopes to have both parts of the speech. Yes, you are right. When you try to remove crosstalk in the timeline down here, you can't, because if you have a sequence with multiple tracks, obviously those two tracks are edited in sync at the same time, so you cannot do anything. So you have to go into the editor for the sequences, right? But you are right that the blade tool is what you need to use there, okay? Because if you have video, you can't just use the range tool to make a selection and delete something. You can silence it, but you can't silence it because the sequence editor works differently from the main composition editor. Let me show you how you can quickly identify crosstalk. If you have identified your speakers, you should see the colors of the speakers in the labels, but also down here in the timeline. So if I look at the timeline, I can actually see where the crosstalk is, because if I look at the waveforms, they overlap. Right? So mine is green and Chris is purple, or the other way around, I can't remember. But if you scroll down here, you will see that most of the talk, most of the chatter is kind of pretty clearly cut. But if you see the waveforms overlapping, that is where you have crosstalk. So there is a portion here that I want to use as an example, and it has to do with DaVinci Resolve. This is what I was trying to say. DaVinci Resolve. Okay, what is DaVinci Resolve? So if you look down here in the timeline, I see that I try to explain what is DaVinci Resolve, but then Chris kind of talks over me. Let's listen to that.
Oh, DaVinci Resolve is a video editor.
DaVinci Resolve.
Okay, so you can't really understand what we're saying here because he talks over me. So let me show you how to fix that properly because of video. If we have video, I have to keep the video going. I cannot just lose the video because I'm deleting a portion of crosstalk. So here's how you fix crosstalk. You right click on the timeline and click edit sequence. And this will open the sequence editor in that particular location. Okay. So you can see that because of the crosstalk, actually Descript had trouble identifying the speakers correctly because Chris's speech is purple, mine is green. But if you look here, I have some purple on my track also, which is not correct. This is not Chris talking on this file. So obviously here I am starting to talk and he interrupts me on this. So one thing I want to do is maybe silence him. So that's one way to do it. You click on the track. That is the offending track, let's call it, the one that's getting in the way, the one that I want to silence, okay? So one way to do this is to silence it. You click in here and you use the blade tool. You go to the blade tool and you isolate that portion. Don't use the range tool because look what happens. If I take the range tool and I make a selection here in that track and I say, hey, I want to silence that. You know, if I press delete, it is gone. Okay. But the video is also gone. All right. So that's not a workable solution. Undo. And the downside to this, which causes us to have to do so many clicks, is the fact that Descript doesn't let you silence a portion like that, like it does in the composition view. So if I make a selection here and I try to mute that selection, just like I do it in the composition, watch this. It silences the whole track. Look at that. It just silences the whole clip, not my selection. So that's obviously not a good solution, right? So anyway, the range tool isn't going to help us in here. So I'm going to have to go to the blade tool and make two cuts, one before, right there, and one after, like this. Then I have to switch to the select tool and select that clip that I've just isolated. And now I can silence it using this mute clip button here. So look at that. It is now mute. The rest of the track is not muted. So if I play now.
Oh, DaVinci Resolve is a video editor. Yeah, okay. It's a video editor.
There you go. So you can now hear me completely. And while he's moving his mouth, I can't hear what he's saying because it's muted. However, if you have a situation where you do want to keep both pieces of the speech, the problem is going to be that you're going to be able to move the video clip to make room, but at some point you're going to have to account for the black video that's going to result. Okay, let me show you what I mean. I'm going to undo this. All right, here we go. So I'm back now to the video edit. I'm back now to the crosstalk, right? So let's assume that I want to move this speech apart. So I want to keep me answering the question, and I want to keep Chris saying whatever he was saying in there, right? Which means I need to make some room in the sequence for this to happen, right? So the only way to do that is if you move the clips away to make room. Now, there's a warning here. If you move the clips away, you have to do it, I recommend you do it from the beginning towards the end. So you're editing from the start to the end. And when you encounter crosstalk where you want to keep both speakers, you go in the sequence, you isolate whatever you need to isolate, and you move those clips back. And always move them back, back, back. Don't go in there and start moving clips left and right all over the place, because you will mess around with your entire episode. And down the line, you may come across, why is this guy talking so late, right? Because you're moving them. So here's the right way to save this particular crosstalk where you keep both voices and still everything works fine. Watch this. I need to make room. So the first thing is to do is I'm going to have to use the blade tool again to isolate Chris from my speech, okay? A good way to do it is to isolate Chris first, only on one side, so on the beginning. So I'm going to make a cut before Chris starts talking. Because you see here, I start talking right there, then he starts talking over me. So I'm going to make a cut before he starts talking. Watch this. All right. And now I'm going to move him back. Now, this is important. You have to make sure that you move him back a specific distance and you move your video the same distance. Okay, let me show you why. So I'm going to slide and move him back like this. Look at this. I'm making room for him to talk there. Right? And watch this. I'm going to play now.
Oh, DaVinci Resolve is a video editor.
So your audience like,
yeah, it's a video editor.
All right. So now you can hear me. He has obviously moved back. So what I need to do now is I need to move the continuation of my speech back as well. Unfortunately, Descript doesn't let you move more than one track at a time. So we will have to isolate that track also. And look at this. I'm going to use the blade tool and make a cut in here in the gap between my two speeches. Click on that. So now I've got two clips in here and I can move that back as well with mine. But how much do I move it? Because I'm not sure, right? So I have to move it the same exact distance here, or even more, because I want to make room so that he can say everything he has to say and then I start talking. So ideally, I would move it about here, right? So now I've got two gaps. They're not the same length, these gaps. So if I listen to the whole speech, it should go uninterrupted for both of us. Watch this.
Oh, DaVinci Resolve is a video editor.
So your audience like, what's DaVinci Resolve? Okay.
Yeah, it's a video editor.
All right, crosstalk resolved. Now the problem is, you see here, when I've moved in this gap, my video is black. And in this gap at the bottom, Chris's video is black. All right. And the rest of my conversation is now out of sync. All right. So let me show you how. You can go to the end. So I'm going to zoom out and go all the way to the end. You can use shift and mouse wheel, or you can use this bottom progress bar here. And look, if I go to the very end, the end of this is going to show me the actual difference between these two tracks, right? Look at this. This is the difference between the two. So this gap here is now how my tracks are out of sync by this much, right? Ideally, I have to bring these back. So I'm going to take his track, which is behind, and move it forward so that they match the end like this. So technically now they're back in sync. Okay. So I'm going to exit here and go back inside where the crosstalk was, right click, edit sequence. So look at this. Now these two are in sync. He's moved back a bit. All right, because I have moved it. So look at this now. Hopefully everything is in sync. So then we have this gap in here. And how do I fix these gaps? Well, the gaps, you can fix them by just restoring some of the video and muting it. Okay, that's very easy. But first of all, I want to check something because I moved these two and they should not have been in sync. Let's see. Keep going. Oh, that's because I made cuts. Now, this brings me to my point from earlier. This is why you do it from the beginning to the end, and you don't go back and start moving clips. Okay, this is important. I know this is a lot of discussion over nothing. But here in Descript, where you don't have collective moving of tracks, you cannot insert silence in a track and relative to the other track. You cannot do any of these things. And you don't even have a gradation, like a little thing apart from the timestamps to see how much you're moving stuff. So that's why, look at this, my sequence has cuts in it, which means at some point, some of the stuff is going to be out of sync. So that's why you have to do it from the beginning to the end and fix the crosstalks as you go and always push clips back. Don't make cuts and then come back and move stuff because your gaps are going to be filled and shifted and your videos are going to be out of sync. Okay. So this is one reason you need to do it from the start to the end. Okay. So let me just go back to that crosstalk point there. And I'm going to show you now, edit sequence, how to fix these gaps. All right. We're going to basically do what we did earlier. We're going to fill them with existing video and silence that video. So watch this. I have a gap here on my track where its video is black. This is not black, this is not black, but this inside of this cut, it is black. Look how I'm fixing this. I am using the blade tool, make a little cut just before the segment ends. All right, like this. So I've got isolated that piece. And now I can select that segment with the select tool and just expand it. And you will see that actually I start talking because I'm repeating the video basically. But that's fine because I will stop here. And while I have that clip selected, I will silence that clip right there. And here, do the same. I will go to Chris's track and I will take this clip and expand it, right? So I'm going to expand this clip in here. And I will make a cut. And then I will select that resulting segment and muting that also. So what I'm doing is basically I'm filling the gap with video that I mute. Okay, so you will see us moving our mouths while the other person talks. There's no avoiding that. And you should hear all the audio, right? Look at this.
Oh, DaVinci Resolve is a video editor.
So your audience is like, what's DaVinci Resolve? Okay.
Yeah, it's a video.
So if that's okay for you, I'm going to play this outside of the sequence. Here we go. This is our crosstalk.
Oh, DaVinci Resolve is a video editor.
So your audience is like, what's DaVinci Resolve? Okay.
Yeah, it's a video editor, sort of like.
There you go. If you're not paying attention to the two tracks, I don't think you can notice someone's yapping there in the background. But you can also put like the other person full screen for some reason, you for a while. I don't know, put some B-rolls if that's what you need to do. So this is really a very, very complicated explanation. It is the only way to do it in Descript at the moment. I hope this makes sense. This sounds more complicated than it should be, and it is, but that's what you need to do